Hi there everybody, this is David, and I am super excited about the Trails in the Sky, the first remake. I don't know about y'all, but it is like one of my most anticipated games of the year. And here we have a brand new interview. It's a Japanese interview on Gaymer, which is a Japanese website, with President Kondo himself, going over all the changes that have been made to this remake, and I want to tell you all about it. And I definitely do think that's worth the sub as you come and you join a party and you level on up with me. Thank you so much for the sub and the like and the comments and everything else. It helps me out a ton. Thank you again. So I have been a fan of the Trails series for quite a bit of time, and I brought out some of my Trails paraphernalia for this as well, just to kind of prove it to y'all, although you could just watch the Let's Plays from over the years of tons and tons and tons of Trails games, and you'll know that, yeah, I am a true fan. So I even brought out the Gag Carve trilogy that I have right here, including the Ed, and Eddie covers from GameStop right here for Legend of Heroes 2, Song of the Ocean, and I got Tear of a Million, $7, $6.99 right there for Tear of a Million. Who knew? I think that, I want to say, Prophecy of the Moonlight Witch was like $4.99, and this one was like $8.99. Like, I got them super cheap. But I really liked them, even they had a wonky translation, but I thought that they were something unique and something cool. And then whenever Trails in the Sky was first coming out, everybody and their mother was going on about it, saying how great it was going to be, how it was like this huge series over in Japan, and they were like kind of testing the waters with it over here on the PSP. So I was first in line outside the GameStop to pick it up at 10 o'clock in the morning, and I have that right here. This is the premium edition. This is the box right here. I have the box open because I've already taken out some of the stuff right there to show y'all. It came with like this little bracer pin right there, made in China, of course, not made in Liberal, unfortunately. So that has a little soundtrack CD right there. It's still in its little case right there. And it also came with the game, of course. And it came with a massive instruction manual. Back whenever games had instruction manuals. Yeah, back in the good old days. It also had a poster too, but I had the poster hanging up over there and I don't really want to take it down. But anyway, yeah, I am a huge, huge, huge fan of these games. So I cannot wait to tell y'all all about the different changes that Kondo here has to talk about. One of the main things that he talked about was the voiceover work. He says the total number of voiceover words is higher than any previous Trails series title, than any of them. That's really freaking crazy. He says that during the original game, there's long periods of time whenever Stella and Joshua are kind of alone together, and they're kind of like traveling the field in silence, like a normal game used to be. But now they have to interrupt that silent time with talking and blabbing. So yeah, they even put that in right there. They said that it doesn't have the feel of a modern game. They can't be silent the whole time. So it looks like every single time they pass through a checkpoint or enter a new area, some sort of conversation between the two will happen. It says that there's some fairly casual dialogue during battle, and this has been done in more detail than in previous works as well. Then they go on to say that the cast of the game is extremely small compared to the rest of the series, with only 8 different party members. And in other games, the number can reach sometimes as many as 50. Yeah, he's referencing Trails to Reverie right there. So in this game, whenever you do arrive in town, the two of you will exchange thoughts, and after entering a place or meeting somebody, a skit-like conversation will immediately take place. I've got to say this. A lot of people have asked about like bloat in the Trails series, and I kind of get where you're coming from. It can be bloated. So whenever he says a skit-like conversation, I really kind of hope that he does mean a skit, a skippable skit, like in the Tales series or in the Octopath series or something like that, because yeah, there can be some bloat right there. He then goes on to talk about the different combat system and what is going on with it, with the active combat system and the turn-based combat system right there. So he says that the enemy movements and AI are quite diverse. I wanted to make use of that. And the development team took that into consideration, and they say they wanted to put more effort into the enemy AI. Then he says, in newer games, there's a recent trend of not having enough time to tune in the balance. So they really wanted to make sure that they had that balance correct, and they took their time to make the battles more interesting. So if you say that weapons don't work, they really don't work. So it became necessary to make good use of magic. Remember in like the Final Fantasy games, whenever you encounter like a jelly or something, and then you go to attack it and it dealt like 1 damage? That's how it used to be in these older games, and it looks like that is still the case. Whereas in today's games, whenever they're like, oh, you know, weapons won't work, that just means you need to hack it twice instead of one time to kill it. So they're talking about that balance right there and just saying, you know, this game is a little bit harder. They then go on to talk about and say that this game was aimed at beginners to the series. This is the entry point into the series. This is now going to be the canonical entry point into the series. Whenever somebody says, where should I start? This is where you're going to point them to. So it is aimed at beginners to the series, and they've allocated resources to things like comfortable gameplay and unique moves of Estelle and Joshua. They've made the UI and tutorials much more user-friendly than in previous Trails games as well. And then they wanted to make the battles quick and have command battles feel like you're in a zone with precise movements. So you can't fire arts in quick battles, the battles that are like on the field and everything, but you can use crafts in the battles on the field. You just can't cast spells. Then they go on again to talk about, you know, older gameplay things, how, you know, in some modern games, because they made modern games so freaking easy, you know what I'm talking about, you can just kind of like go through, never really buying equipment and just equipping whatever it is that you find in treasure chests and things like that. And they're saying that isn't the case here. It can be tough if you're not properly equipped with items, and places you go to on quests can be tough. So we've retained the mindset of the original version in those areas. In the current Trails series, there are some parts that you can get through with just pressing a button, but I think that there's a certain amount of reversion of the roots of the series, so it is tough if you don't properly buy new equipment and if you don't properly use arts. I know for a fact, as a player of this game series for a very long time, that the Sky series was pretty hard. Then the Crossspell duology got a little bit easier. Then the Erebonian arc was like ridiculously easy, and it just kept on getting easier to the point where like I'm like, arts, casting spells, who does that? Why even bother? So it is so nice for them to actually be going on through and like, you know, making sure that arts actually matter. He then goes on to talk about the orbments, and he says that they're similar to the original Trails in the Sky. There are various attribute values, and if the total value is clear, you can use the arts. However, the number of quartz has increased, and in that respect, it's not exactly the same as the original, but you can enjoy a wider range of things, and if you work hard, you can use more powerful arts early, like in the original version. Then he says, in the original version, arts are actually the only thing that works in the early stages. There are times when an enemy will have like super huge evasion and it will miss, but arts won't miss, so you have to use the arts. He's specifically saying, hey y'all, you actually have to cast spells. If you do a quick battle where you can't cast arts, you can actually miss your target and not do any damage. So if that's the case, you're going to have to switch to a command battle and actually cast arts. Wow! Who knew? They're actually like balancing the difficulty. Whoa! What a concept! I think that's fantastic. The number of quests has increased since the original version, and some quests start at designated locations rather than being accepted just on like a boring message board. If you try to go to a location though that's not related to the main story, you'll often be told that it's better not to go there now. So you can go on in to places where you're not supposed to go and fight stronger enemies, or get different treasures, or even find some hidden events or conversations there too. Also, fast travel has been made available, because whenever you're taking something from 2D and turning it into 3D, it just takes longer to do. And I know this for a fact, because I played Dragon Quest XI in 3D, and it took hours. I'm talking like hundreds of hours. And then I played it in 2D, and I was able to beat it in like 30 hours. So yeah, putting a game in 2D versus 3D exponentially decreases the time right there. So yeah, it says to help with all that, you can open the map and fly to wherever you want, and if you want to fast travel on a quest, you can skip that part. You can also walk in high speed mode. That is up to you. Then, this is also really freaking huge, just like I'm talking about with the Dragon Quest XI sort of thing. He says the playtime for the original version is just under 40 hours, but a main programmer the other day said it took him 80 hours to complete this. So the playtime has actually doubled because the map is so much larger, because of the new conversational scenes, because of all the voice acting that they've added, because of the new quests that they've added. I know myself, whenever there's not voice acting, I'm just like, okay, because I can read it really fast. But when there is voice acting, I kind of like to stop and take it in, you know what I mean? So I am a little bit slower than I would be if there is no voice acting right there. So yeah, this is super duper exciting. I am so looking forward to this. In some trailers, we got to see some new characters that we haven't seen yet or that weren't in the original, like Grant and Onlace. Maybe they'll actually join up and they'll be in your party. How cool would that be? I think that Onlace is like a criminally underused character in the series, so I would definitely do like to see more of her. And I'd also like to see if this is a success, if they're going to go ahead and do second and third. I feel like they might as well do second because it's like the same area and they have all these maps completed and stuff, so it's kind of easy for them to do, but only time will tell. I don't think that they're going to announce that until after this one has already been released. I do think it is kind of a foregone conclusion because, again, the assets are already made. They might as well do second chapter. But now I want to hear from y'all. What do you think about all this news? What do you think about these huge new updates? What do you think about the new quests, the new times, Onlace coming on in? And what do you think about the second chapter being translated? Let me know in the comments, and as always, have a good day.